Hi and welcome back to the AQA GCSE History, Germany, the Democracy and the Dictatorship 1890 to 1945 revision series. This is episode 2 and we're looking at the impact of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. World War I had a devastating impact on Germany. At the end of the war, the people of Germany were facing severe hardships. The Allies had set up naval blockades which prevented the imports of foods and essential goods. By 1918, many people were facing starvation. Public opinion had turned against Kaiser Wilhelm II, and there were calls for a democracy. The population was tired of the war, and there was widespread unrest. In November 1918, German naval members rebelled and refused to board their ships. In Hanover, the German troops refused to control the riots, and a Jewish communist called Kurt Einster encouraged a general uprising, which sparked mass strikes in Munich. But what happened after World War I? In November of 1918, there was almost a civil war in Germany, and a mass public protest was held in Berlin. The members of the SPD called for the Kaiser's resignation. On the 9th of November 1918, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated, and the SPD and the USPD, which was the Independent Social Democratic Party, declared a republic. A republic is a country ruled without a monarch. Power is held by the people via elected representatives. It's also important to note that Germany was made up of 18 states, and each had its own government. The national government decided national affairs, and the state governments dealt with more local affairs. On the 10th of November, all the state leaders that were appointed by Kaiser Wilhelm left their posts, and the monarchy was abolished. Thus, Germany had a chance to become a democracy. On the 11th November, a ceasefire marks the end of World War I. The Allies, Britain, France and the USA, signed an armistice with Germany. The new German Republic was under pressure to sign, but the German government realised that they could not continue the war because the people of Germany were starving and military morale was very low. Some of the right-wing Germans saw the armistice as a sign of weakness and betrayal, as they strongly believed that they could have won the war. After the Kaiser's abdication, Germany was a mess. Different political parties claimed control over German towns. A temporary government was established by the SPD and the USPD called the Council of People's Representatives. This controlled Germany until January 1919, until a new Reichstag was established. This was known as the Weimar Republic. To find out more about this, take a look at the third episode in this revision series, and I'll link that below. After the armistice was signed, a peace treaty called the Treaty of Versailles was imposed on Germany. The treaty was signed at the end of June 1919. The terms of the treaty were mainly decided by the Allied leaders, David Lloyd George of Great Britain, Georges Clemenceau of France, and Woodrow Wilson of the United States of America. But they all wanted different things. Britain wanted Germany to pay for the debt. They wanted Germany to have a good economic trading, but they also wanted the German navy to be cut down. France wanted the Germans to be punished so they couldn't fight back. They demanded back Alsace-Lorraine, and they wanted Germany to pay off the French debt. But America didn't want to punish Germany as harshly, out of fear that it would start another war, and they also wanted to set up the League of Nations. To remember the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, it's helpful to remember the mnemonic LAM: land, army, money, and blame. For land and territorial losses, Alsace-Lorraine was returned to France. Germany lost 13% of its land, which contained around 6 million of its people. And Germany lost all overseas colonies, which were run by the Allies on behalf of the League of Nations. People opposed the loss in territory, especially when people in German colonies were forced to become part of new nations. For army and military restrictions, the army was limited to 100,000 soldiers. The navy was limited to 15,000 soldiers, only 6 battleships and no submarines. The air force was broken up, and the Rhineland would be occupied by the Allies for 15 years, and no German troops were allowed in that area. This made the Germans feel incredibly vulnerable. For money and reparations, in 1921 a special commission fixed a sum of £6.6 billion to be paid in annual instalments. Germany had around 10% of its industry and 15% of its agriculture removed, so there was great doubt as to whether Germany could actually pay the reparations. The heavy reparations seemed unfair to Germans, as it would cause a lasting damage on Germany's economy. For blame and war guilt, Article 231 of the treaty said that Germany had to accept blame for causing the war. This was the term that the Germans most resented. To them, the war had been one of self-defence. So that's the end of episode 2 of the AQA GCSE History, Germany, Democracy and the Dictatorship 1890 to 1945 revision series. Episode 3 will be on the Weimar Republic and its unpopularity. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, subscribe and leave any questions in the comments below.